Ladies and gentlemen, councillors, please be upstanding for the Chair of Council.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, fellow members, ladies and gentlemen, of the 43rd Annual Meeting of the Council. Would all councillors and officers please ensure that their mobile telephones are switched off? Do all councillors have agenda papers? Anyone not? No. Okay. I'll now outline the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency, please exit via the nearest fire door. These are marked clearly around the main hall and assemble in the car park. Following the government changes from 1st of April to the health and safety requirements associated with COVID infections, we have sought further advice from the Council Health and Safety Advisor. This was in response to the levels of COVID infections in the district. Our number is still between 0.7 and 0.9, and to ensure we take all available measures to protect our officers and elected members. We ask that you please ensure that you maintain a respectful distance from officers and members throughout the course of the meeting. You are advised to continue to wear face masks when moving around the building for yours and others' protection. Please continue to sit only in your allocated seat and do not adjust the position of your desk, as these are being measured to a respectful distance is maintained. Hand sanitizer is available on your desks. We encourage you to use this regularly and before and after touching surfaces. I would remind you of your obligation under the Members' Code of Conduct in respect of behaviour during the meeting. I ask that you are respectful to elected members and officers during the course of the meeting and during debate. Thank you. The meeting is being live streamed to enable public access. Due to the nature of the meeting, voting will take place via roll call. Please ensure that your microphones are muted when you're not speaking to prevent any disruptions. Item agenda 2 is to elect a chairman for the coming year. Sorry, you're a bit behind.
That's all right, you couldn't see me behind the screen. It was just a quick question, which is just on the health and safety stuff, which was who is our advisor on health and safety as a council? Who's given the advice in relation to COVID-19 measures?
Who's that, Stacey? Margaret, could you answer that, please? I'm sorry, I don't think we can all hear that. Could you use a microphone? Could you use Councillor Burr's microphone, perhaps, or someone's microphone? Sorry, Margaret.
You're quite right, Councillor Duncan. The advice is actually on the front of the pack, so it's slightly different advice that Councillor Frank had kind of thinged out, so but everybody should have it in the front of their pack.
Sorry, so the advice was it through North Yorkshire County Council as usual?
Yeah.
The only reason that I raised the point is that there's, I think, 4 people in this room tonight who on Tuesday were at North Yorkshire County Council in County Hall with 90 odd other people sat side by side with no social distancing, no masks, no safety statement at the start of the meeting. And I just find it interesting that we've had advice from North Yorkshire County Council when North Yorkshire County Council has seemed to be doing something very different to what we are. The other point I would make is that we obviously have outside stream people here at, I think, a cost of around £3,000 per meeting, which I think now is not necessary. Members of the public are, I believe, legally entitled to attend these meetings. I think we should encourage that, and I think if moving forward we could move from having extremely expensive live streaming outside companies coming in and actually adopting the approach that North Yorkshire County Council are taking, and that we're not being given different advice. I think sensibly, hopefully all members would agree with that.
Thank you. Councillor Burr.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I completely agree with that. I can't understand why we're actually carrying on with this health and safety. As you all know, I run a college and we have many students, and we aren't obliged to do all this. I was also sat at a meeting at County Hall, not yesterday, but the day Wednesday before, and there were lots and lots of people, and I just think that we are going to the extreme, and I do actually agree about the live streaming. I think it's about time that we had all our residents in here if they want to come and listen. So I actually completely agree.
Thank you, Councillor Burr. Councillor Andrews, Paul Andrews.
I'll withdraw, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Keele.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My understanding is that this is likely to be the last meeting that we have this arrangement, unless something dramatic changes with COVID and there is another variant. It is very likely that we will go back to the horseshoe arrangement for our next meeting, and we are discussing the future of the live streaming of meetings as well, and you will be part of that discussion, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Councillor Keele. Councillor Goodrick.
Thank you, Chairman. I do agree with my colleagues. However, I will add a caveat to that. The Executive Member for Health and Adult Social Care made it very clear in the Chamber yesterday that given the numbers of COVID that are still around, it is quite possible that at least one person in this Chamber may be carrying COVID. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I hope my cough lasts out because I don't want me thinking it's me. I have been tested. Councillor Thackeray.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about COVID, but as the Chief Executive will attest, prior to my election to Ryedale District Council and immediately after, I requested live streaming of Ryedale District Council meetings to enable public access to those that might have to travel from the length and breadth of this district to be able to participate in the democratic process, many of whom will not have their own transport. There is no, contrary to what Mr George Jabber says, there is not public transport in every village, all leading to the Mecca of Ryedale House. And I think it is draconian and backwards to think that in this modern day, with the technology that we have at our disposal, that we would even contemplate removing that access from the people. I think it's quite unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thackeray. So, I was just going to wrap this up because we are now supposed to be electing a chair, not talking about COVID-19 and various other things. So I think we'll go back to the agenda. Where am I up to? What am I up to? So, So the next item on the agenda is to elect a chairman of council for the ensuing year. Are there any nominations for the position of chairman of council? Councillor Duncan.
I'd like to propose Councillor Claire Dockery.
Are there any other nominations? Councillor Potter.
Yes, I'd like to propose Councillor Wass, but unfortunately he is absent this evening on the basis of a long-standing commitment as the musical director of the pantomime in Pickering, where he is conducting the orchestra. So, yes, I've been advised that we need to have a vote on whether that is a suitable reason for his absence tonight before we can continue with his nomination. Thank you.
Could I ask a pertinent question to that? Would the pantomime have carried on without him? Was he absolutely necessary to the pantomime's carrying on? Because it would be a great shame for it not to be on, but there again, this is an important decision to make tonight.
Yes, clearly it's a different pantomime, but I have to say... Yes, I'm afraid it's a long-standing commitment that would have been in his diary long before this meeting, and unfortunately a pantomime doesn't go on without an orchestra, and he is the conductor of the orchestra. So I can't say any more than that, I'm afraid, other than it's behind you.
Thank you. Councillor Oxley, do you have another nomination? Thank you.
No, Madam Chairman, I just wanted to respond to Councillor Potter, but yeah. The date of the pantomime in Pickering has not been fixed for as long as the date of this meeting has been fixed, just as a point of order, because it was moved. I have no problem at all with Councillor Wass standing. I accept his reason completely, but let's have it on the basis of the truth rather than anything else.
Thank you. Councillor Thackeray, I've got your hand keen.
Since this meeting's been live streamed, couldn't he conduct it from here?
I think so. Thank you. Councillor Sorry, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Obviously, I wasn't aware that Councillor Wass wasn't going to be at the meeting. I mean, I'm personally happy for both names to go forward to a vote and members to make a choice. I would like to just talk briefly about why I'm proposing Councillor Dockery, if now's a good opportunity, or if you want me to wait to see if there's further nominations. But from my perspective, I think it would be slightly bizarre to vote on whether Councillor Wass should be able to put his name forward. I would rather we just take a vote and members will make a choice as to whether they want someone who's present to chair the meeting to be the chair, or someone who's not present to be the chair.
Excuse me. Can I just ask Elizabeth, is that in order for his name to go forward without us taking a vote? Okay, thank you. Is anyone against that? Okay. So, yes, Councillor Duncan, you want to...
Yeah, so just by way of...
a brief introduction.
Yeah, so just by way of sort of the reasoning behind the proposal, I want to say clearly now that the Conservative group will not be contesting any of the other positions later on in the agenda. We have no intention of doing that. We will support the nominations that come forward for all of the other chairmanships and vice chairmanships. And this evening we believe that is the most constructive way of getting through this meeting and also the next 11 months. However, we do feel that having Councillor Dockery in the chair of council moving forward for the next 11 months would be a constructive step, whereby if we are genuinely across political groups seeking constructive working moving forward, if we are all genuine about that, then we do feel that the Conservative group, as I think, and I'll have to check my figures, still the largest group on the council at this stage, although we have lost a few members, I think it is right that we do have some sort of role over the next 11 months, and that having a chairmanship from this group would be a constructive thing for us. So the pledge is there, and that we do not intend to contest items later on in the agenda. We don't think that will be useful for us. We are respectfully asking that groups across the council will support Councillor Dockerer to step into the chair. And obviously, if there are contests further in the agenda, we will look favourably as a group on those people who have supported our nomination for the chairmanship. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Potter, would you like to speak for Councillor Wass as he's not here? Oh, sorry. Sorry, I forgot about seconders there for a minute. Oh, we have two seconders up there. Councillor Cleary.
In the absence of everybody else, I'd be very happy to second Councillor Dockerer's nomination.
Thank you. And Councillor Joy Andrews has seconded Councillor Wass. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Chair. Well, all I can say briefly about Councillor Wass is that he's an ex-teacher, so I think he's perfectly capable of controlling an unruly class of children, so I think he'll manage all right here. I think everybody would agree that he is very calm, sensible and well-informed in the way that he approaches everything. He would certainly be strictly fair in his approach across the whole council and show no favour to anybody. And I think those are admirable qualities to put forward as a chair of council. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. This is a bit confusing tonight. Sorry about that. There's just some duplication on these notes. So, so I think now we need to go to the vote. So if we do it by roll call, and if you just call out.
Sorry, could I just speak on behalf of Councillor Ross as seconder? Is that okay? I don't know whether you want to speak first. Thank you. It was just to add, for those that have been on the council for a long time, the chairmanship used to be on a rota system that each group got chance of chairing, being chairman of council, until, as John always reminded us, until it got to the Liberal Party's chance to have a go in it and the constitution was changed. So I just think it would be right and fitting, seeing that a Liberal, we have had Liberal councillors on this council for many years now, that the last year that it could be chaired by Liberal councillor, and I think Clive Wass would be very good for the job.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary, would you like to speak? Thank you.
Very briefly, Madam Chairman, thank you. Councillor Dockerer is a strong and experienced councillor who would fill your shoes admirably. Thank you.
You look as though you're about the same size as me, yeah. Right, so we'll go to the vote then. So it's a roll call, and if you would like to call out the name of who you would like to be next chair of this council. Thank you.
Councillor Joy Andrews.
Councillor Clive Wass.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Abstain.
Councillor Arnold. Councillor Bailey.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Brackstone.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Burr. Abstain. Councillor Clark.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Cleary.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Cousins.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Duncan.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Goodrick.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Graham.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Hope.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Keel.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor King.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Mason.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Middleton.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Oxley.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Rain.
Councillor Wass.
Councillor Ryby.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Thackeray.
Abstain.
Councillor Windress.
Councillor Dockerer.
Thank you.
Councillor Windress, would you mind your vote again, please?
Councillor Dockerer.
Thank you.
Ready? Apologies, Chair. That's 11 votes for Councillor Dockerer, 12 for Councillor Wass and 3 abstentions.
Thank you. So Councillor Wass is then voted to be the chair for the ensuing year. So I'm going to ask Elizabeth again what happens now, Elizabeth, because deputy chair should take over, but he's not here either. So do I continue or do we get someone else in?
I think for this meeting, you just continue. Yes, you just continue. And then we will ask Councillor Wass to undertake a declaration in front of us in order that...
Thank you. Thank you. So, I'm going to miss that out because he's not here. So we go on to item 4 now. Item 4, to appoint a vice chair for the coming year. On the agenda is to appoint a vice chair for the council for the ensuing year. Are there any nominations for the position of vice chair of council, please? Thank you. Councillor Burr.
Councillor Frank, you.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Keel. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to propose Councillor Dockerer.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cleary. Are there any other nominations? No. case, does anyone want to make speeches on this one? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Obviously, I did state in my introduction previously about the nomination for Councillor Dockerer. I tried to extend to the Council a genuine commitment that moving forward over the next 11 months that there could be, hopefully, some cooperation between political groups. Tonight, I think, the 43rd annual meeting of Ryedale District Council, I think it's the first meeting that a chairman of the council has been elected who is not present at the meeting to take the chains, take the oath of office and chair the meeting. And my only motivation that I can see behind that decision is pure politics rather than actually looking at the sensible situation moving forward, the sensible decision for the council. And I think that is actually a really great shame. This is no criticism whatsoever of Councillor Wass, who I have to say in all my experiences with him has been, I've worked closely on a number of issues, and I think he's a really great councillor. I think he would be and will be a really good chair of the council. But I do have to say that there was a genuine offer there that the Conservative group had requested one position and one position only. That has obviously been rejected in favour of a plan that's been worked up prior to this meeting. Councillor Dockerer, I've proposed now for the Vice Chairman. Obviously, if she is successful, she will chair this meeting. The nomination is there, and I think that is a much better way forward than having the current chair step into the Vice Chairman role. Obviously, you have served, respectfully, Chairman, you've served as Chairman before, you've served as Vice Chairman. I think twice. This will be your third time in doing that, and I think hopefully groups across the council will be motivated by doing, I think, the right thing with this appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burr, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Oh, did...
If it comes to that, we'll ask Elizabeth. Thank you, Councillor Mason.
Yes,
Councillor Burr.
well, first of all, I'd like to offer my congratulations to Councillor Wass. I think that you would make an excellent accompaniment for Councillor Wass. I think in this turbulent year of moving forward, I think that we do need a steady pair of hands. You've always served this council diligently. You are the perfect person to actually be sat alongside Councillor Wass. So I have no hesitations in recommending that we all vote for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burr. Do the seconders wish to speak? Di.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I would support nomination. Obviously, I have done already for Councillor Frank. She has coped with what has been a very difficult year last time. I am hoping that this coming year, well, it's not even a year, this coming 10 months will be a calmer time for this council, and we will actually be able to deliver some of the things that we want to deliver in the time that we have less. I welcome Councillor Duncan's statement about collaboration and working together, and I hope that however the votes go on these roles this evening, he will stick with that commitment to this council. And I think I agree with Councillor Burr completely. You will be a good supporting role to Councillor Wass in learning the ropes very quickly, and as he takes over as chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. In that case, we'll go to the vote. The same as the vote for chairman. It'll be roll call, and if you'll call out the names. Thank you.
Councillor Joy Andrews.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Arnold.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Bailey.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Brackstone.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Burr. Councillor Clark.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Cleary.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Cousins.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Duncan.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Goodrick.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Graham.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Hope.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Keele.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor King.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Mason.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Middleton.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Oxley.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Rain.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Ryby.
Councillor Dockerer.
Councillor Thackeray.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Windress.
Councillor Dockerer.
Thank you. Chair, that's 14 votes for Councillor Frank and 12 votes for Councillor Dockerer.
Thank you. So I have been voted to be Deputy Chair for the ensuing year. Thank you, and thank you for those who voted for me.
Madam Chairman, will you be removing the Chairman's chain of office and putting on the Vice Chairman's chain?
I'm not quite sure where the Vice Chairman's chair is, but I certainly can do that. I don't mind at all. It sticks in your shoulder anyway. It's like nails in your shoulder, this thing. It's a pain. So, does anyone know where the Vice Chair's chain is? That's a jolly good idea. Councillor Cleary.
Madam Chairman, in the absence of the incoming Chairman, may I thank you for your service as Chair for this year.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cleary. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Cleary. That's very kind of you.
Councillor Frank, before you go any further, can you please read out the declaration?
Yeah. I can if I can find it in this very complicated speech. Oh, yeah. Declaration. Here we go, then. I, Janet Frank, having been elected to the office of Vice Chair of Ryedale District Council, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. Right, Vice Chairman, so Vice Mayor just consort. So the Vice Chairman's consort is the next thing on the agenda. Caroline Frank will be my consort, my daughter will be my consort for the year. And we'll have to sort out Councillor Wass's consort when he's here next meeting. So item agenda 5 on the agenda is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillors Garbett Moore and Councillor Wass.
Thank you. Councillor Potter, okay. Agenda 6, minutes of the last meeting. On the agenda is enclosed the minutes of the last annual meeting of the Council held on the 20th of May 2021. The minutes are on page 5 to 18 of the agenda. As Vice Chairman of the Council, I move that the minutes of the previous meeting be signed as a correct record. Is that seconded? Thank you, Councillor Potter. As the motion has been moved and seconded, I'll put it to the vote. Is anyone against this, or can we do it through general affirmation? General affirmation? Councillor Ryby. Oh, right, okay. I thought you wanted to speak. Okay, so I think that's been moved by general affirmation then. Thank you. Item agenda 7's urgent business, and there's no urgent business at this meeting tonight. Item Agenda 8, members to report any declarations of interest. Do any members have any declarations of interest under item 8 of the agenda? Nope. Thank you. Agenda item 9 is to receive any announcements from the chairman or the head of paid services. So, oh, thank you. I thought he was coming to tell us something. Sorry about that. Oh dear, how kind of him. It's the pantomime again, isn't it? Should the new chairman not have selected his chaplain or charities, this announcement may be delayed. So he obviously isn't here, so we'll delay that. Item Agenda 10, Leader and Deputy Leader of Council. Turning now to item 10 on the agenda, relating to the appointment of a Leader and Deputy Leader of Council. The starting point is that the Council Constitution states that annual Council may appoint a Leader and Deputy Leader. I propose dealing with this in two parts. For each position, namely, inviting a motion on principle of having a Leader and Deputy Leader of Council. And only if that motion is passed, we will progress to nominations for that position. Does anyone wish to move a motion on the principle of having a Leader of Council? Or not, as the case may be. So I will take that as no one wanting to have a leader or deputy leader, which is where we've been at before. So then we'll move on then.
Can we just move that the council should not appoint a leader for the ensuing year? So can we just move that? So if you could just move that, and then if that is seconded, and then we'll just go to the vote.
It needs to be voted on, does it, Elizabeth?
So
Thank you.
That there is not to be a
Yeah.
leader
So,
for the ensuing year.
yeah.
And then someone has got to second that, and then we vote.
Thank you. So then I'll move that this council does not have a leader or deputy leader. Councillor Cleary, did you wish to speak?
Merely to help with the procedure, I would second the motion that we do not have a leader.
Thank you. So that's been seconded. So we will put that to the vote then, that we do not have a leader or deputy leader for this council. General affirmation? Oh. You'll have to put your microphone on, I can't hear.
I think Michael said he would second a motion to not have a leader.
To not have a leader.
Not to have one, but just to not have one.
I said to not have a leader. That's what I said. So, so we'll have to put it to the vote because Steve wants to vote against this. Okay.
I think this council should always have a leader. Every other council in North Yorkshire has a leader, but us. And it annoys me.
I think I can tell you're a bit annoyed there, Steve. Councillor Duncan.
I think it's worth pointing out, just following on from what Councillor Randall said, that this is the only council in the entire country that I'm aware of that also does not have a leader. I think actually it's a strange scenario, and I think we have got in effect a leader who is not called leader, but their role and their functions are exactly the same as the leader of the council. They are not remunerated in the same way, but they are doing, in effect, the same role. I think it is actually not useful to that individual, but that is a decision that has been taken in previous years, that we shouldn't have a leader moving forward. I don't think that's a wise and sensible thing. We should have a leader. I don't think at this stage that necessarily it's wise to change the situation that we're in, but it's strange that Ryedale is the only council that does not have a leader in the entire country.
Perhaps we were just a pathfinder. Maybe some others will follow our lead. You never know. So we are ready for the vote now. We're ready to go to the vote. Councillor Cleary, did you wish to speak?
Forgive me, Madam Chairman. I was very happy to help you with procedure to second it. Does Councillor Arnold's comments, does he mean that he actually would like to propose at some point, or as he simply said he wants a leader but doesn't want to propose it?
Can I come back on that? I would have proposed a leader, but I felt it would get voted down anyway, so I didn't think there was any point.
Okay. Everyone happy with that? Right, we'll go straight to the vote now. Thank you.
Councillor Joy Andrews?
For.
Councillor Paul Andrews?
For.
Councillor Arnold?
Against.
Councillor Bailey?
Abstain.
Councillor Brackstone?
For.
Councillor Burr? For. Councillor Clark?
For.
Councillor Cleary?
Abstain.
Councillor Cousins? Was that 4?
Yeah.
Councillor Dockwra?
Abstain.
Councillor Duncan?
Abstain.
Councillor Frank?
For.
Councillor Goodrick?
For.
Councillor Graham?
Abstain.
Councillor Hope?
For.
Councillor Keel?
For.
Councillor King?
I'm abstaining, please.
Councillor Mackenzie?
Abstain.
Councillor Mason?
Abstain.
Councillor Middleton?
Abstain.
Councillor Oxley?
Against.
Councillor Potter?
For.
Councillor Rain?
For.
Councillor Ryby?
Abstain.
Councillor Thackeray?
For.
Councillor Windress?
For.
Thank you. Chair, that's 14 votes for, 2 votes against and 10 abstentions.
Okay, so we've voted now to not have a leader or deputy leader for this council. Thank you. So where are we up to now? That's all that. Page on page 9. Yeah. Okay. So, so we'll move on to item agenda 11, which is allocation of seats on committees. The allocation of seats on committees between political groups and the appointment of members to committees. We are looking at the officers' recommendations on paragraph 2.0 of the report circulated. Thank you to group leaders of political groups who have supplied nominations for committees before this meeting. I intend to deal with these recommendations in 3 parts. First, we will deal with recommendations 1 to 3. Then we will deal with recommendation 4 relating to the election of a chairman and vice chairman of the standing committees, with the exception of the licensing committee. We will then deal with the remaining recommendations en bloc. With regard to recommendations 1 to 3, will someone please move a motion? I move so we need now a proposal for someone to propose a proposal for chair of P&R. Does anyone wish to propose a chair of P&R? Councillor Mason.
I'll propose Dyke.
Is that seconded?
Sorry, no.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. I'm not proposing a nomination. It was just to say that I thought we were doing unless I've just skipped over something. I thought we were doing the first three recommendations, 1 to 3, before moving to the chairmanships and vice chairmanships.
Where's 1 to 3 then? I forgot that, Elizabeth. Sorry, there's some. Okay, so I'm afraid we're just going to have to take 5 minutes because we need to print out the part 1, the committee seats proportionality, because of a resignation. There's now 28 members, not 29 members. So we need to have this reprinted so that you've all got the correct figures. Councillor Mason.
Just a question on the agenda. Do we not have to appoint the members of the committee first before we appoint the chair?
That's what we're doing now.
Well, in the agenda here on the front page, you've got item C, appoint chairs and vice chairs first, and then item D, appointment of members. It's on the front page of the agenda, and the public agenda. Sorry, I'm looking at the front cover of the agenda. That's...
Chair, just to clarify, can I help? Chair, can I help?
You can try, Councillor Andrews. Thank you.
I'll try not to confuse everybody. But I believe we're now on item 11 of the agenda, and so the first thing is the first item there, paragraph A, is the committees. The second paragraph is the allocation of seats in the committees between political groups. And then the third point is the appointment of chairs. And the fourth point, the fourth moment is the appointment of members to the committees. In other words, the members of the committees actually come last. But I always understood that we had to actually go through, and perhaps the monitoring officer can correct me, but I always understood that we had to go through item 2.2 of the report right to the end before we actually started the actual formal voting procedure for either committee chairs or members.
That is correct, but unfortunately, since this document was produced, we've had a resignation, and you should have had an updated documentation, which is being printed off. So I do apologise to full council. So if you could just bear with us for 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
Councillor Barr.
It's just a question. The seats may have changed, so groups might not have decided who's going to be actually on the committees.
In that case, if any leaders of groups wish to have 5 minutes to decide on that, I think we can do that. But we'll just get this list out first, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you. Councillor Duncan.
Just one quick thing which might help, Madam Chairman, which is obviously, in case people are that way, the resignation is from a member of my group, which means that we now have 8 members in total, as far as I understand it. The actual political proportionality, the only change is that the person who has resigned is no longer one of the appointments to the Policy and Resources Committee. We were entitled to 4, we're now entitled to 3. The piece of paper we have in front of us, as far as I can see, is still accurate and remains accurate. It's just simply the number of councillors is now 28 rather than 29, and that means that there isn't actually any change to the other political groupings, as far as I understand it, to their entitlement, and therefore there shouldn't be any changes either to group leaders' appointments. The only changes to us, which is Councillor Delaney, and he's obviously resigned, so he's no longer a rep on Policy and Resources.
That is correct, Councillor Duncan. This document on your desk does reflect the 28 number. So this document is correct. It's just the proportionality figures in here that you should have been sent that you weren't. So we can proceed on the basis of this document. That is correct.
Yeah. I think we'll just take a 5-minute break because Nikki's gone off to print something. So we'll just take a 5-minute break here. Thank you. Okay. So, I think we've got. Councillor Duncan said we could start without him, and he'll come in whenever. He said just start. I'm not sure what he's doing. So, first we're going to deal with recommendations 1 to 3. Then we'll deal with recommendation 4 relating to the election of chairs and vice chairman of the standing committees, with the exception of the licensing committee. We'll then deal with the remaining recommendations on block. So, item 1 to 3.
Could I just interrupt, please? Please accept my apologies, Chair. If we can just make sure that we're all looking at the right documentation. So this document on your tables is Annex A. This is the recalculated indicative proportionality as a consequence of the resignation very recently from the Conservative group. This other document, which has the names, excuse me, and the committees, is Annex B. And this is accurate, and this reflects the 28 councillors. So what we're going to do first is take item 1 to 3, which is that the council appoints committees indicated in A, so that you all agree these numbers and figures in A, and that there is the correct proportionality division between the groups. And then once we agree that, then what we're going to do, although for years, for some reason at Ryedale we've done it differently, we're going to do 5, which is the membership of committees shown in Annex B. So we're going to put forward nominations and vote on that. And then once we've got the members of the committees, we then vote on the chair and the vice chair. I don't know why at Ryedale they do it the other way around. So if you're happy that we've got the right document, so really 1 to 3 is just agreeing Annex A, if you're all in agreement with that. And then we go to Annex B, and then we are appointing 2 committees in accordance with the nominations that have been put forward. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. So, I've lost my thread now again, Elizabeth. First we deal with recommendations 1 to 3, which is Annex A, this document. You've all just got this on your desks. This is the new document on your desks. So that's the document we're agreeing now. So we need a proposer. Councillor Potter, are you proposing? Thank you. And a seconder then. Councillor Oxley. Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak in favour or against the motion or propose an amendment? No. Right. So, as no one wishes to speak in favour or against this, it's been proposed and seconded. So we will put that to the vote. Can we do this by general affirmation? Is anyone against it? Okay. So then that is carried by general affirmation then. Dealing next with recommendation 4, relate. Oh, sorry, 5. Yeah, we're going to 5. Hang on. Which is somewhere else. So where is it? It isn't on this paper.
So if we go to membership of committees shown in Annex B, and so therefore it would be prudent to do it committee by committee. So, you know, if we're all in agreement as we go through with the numbers and the councillors who have been appointed, we can just agree committee by committee, and then we'll vote at the end. If there is any challenges to chairs or vice chairs, then we can vote on those. So if we start with policy and resources.
So that's Annex B, which was on your desks at the start of the meeting, Annex B, members of committees. Does anyone have any objection to what's on to the names on this document, or does anyone wish to change any of these names or change the document in any way?
I think I'd just like to move it first. So
All right, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily need to go through the committees if that's
No.
sorry, just do it.
I was just going to say that.
Sorry.
That's okay. So no one has any objection to anyone on this document. Councillor Keele.
It's not an objection, but I would like to change our substitute, the Liberal Democrat and Independent group. I would like to change the substitute on planning from myself to Councillor Middleton, please.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Middleton? Do we need to vote on? Yeah, Councillor Goodrick, did you wish to speak?
Sorry, Chairman, could you just clarify, because if Councillor Middleton is on overview and scrutiny, can she be on planning? Can she? Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to check. Thank you.
So can we then vote on Annex B on this document as amended, with Councillor Keele taken off as substitute and Councillor Middleton put on as substitute on Planning Committee? Can we take that by general affirmation? Are you saying yes, Steve? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then that's that dealt with. So now we go to item agenda. Now we go to number 4 on the agenda, dealing with recommendations relating to the election of chairs and vice chairs of the standing committees, with the exception of the licensing committee. For each position, use the following wording. Are there any nominations for the position of chairman or vice chairman? I think we'll have to take chairman first, of Policy and Resources, Planning, Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So, are there any nominations for the chairman of Policy and Resources? Okay. Councillor Mason.
I'll nominate Di Keel again.
Is that seconded? Councillor Middleton, thank you. Are there any other nominations for the Chair of Policy and Resources? No? In that case.
Vote. No. I think. Oh.
So, as no one else is, Councillor Mason.
As I propose, I'd just like to say thank you for Di's efforts in the past year, and I think Di will be a very good chair of P&R for the last 10 months of this council.
I'm sure she will. I think you're right. Councillor Burt.
Yes, I'd like to echo that, but as there are no nominations, I think that we could take this by general affirmation.
I don't think we even need to vote on it, do we, Elizabeth? Because of it being the only one nominated, I think it's passed us. Yeah. So then, Vice Chair of Policy and Resources. Are there any nominations for Vice Chair of Policy and Resources? Councillor Barr.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Ryby, please.
Is that seconded? Okay, I think. Okay. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chair of Policy and Resources? No? Okay, so Vice Chair of Policy and Resources. So we take that then, that's fine. So Councillor Ryby is Vice Chair then of Policy and Resources, as there are no other nominations. So next we go to Chair of Planning. Are there any nominations for Chair of Planning? Councillor Andrews.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Mike Potter.
Is that seconded? Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Burr.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor Thackeray. Right, thank you. Councillor Goodrick.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to nominate Councillor Michael Cleary.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you. So, as there's more than one nominee, we'll ask councillors for the name of their preferred nominee. Does anyone wish to speak for their nomination to start with? Councillor Burr.
Have to wait till after the vote.
Sorry, what was that, Claire? Oh, just someone.
What a shame. What a shame.
So, Councillor Burr.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Councillor Andrews. His dedication to planning is exemplary. And as we are in the final year of this council, I think it needs a steady pair of hands and someone who has started a process that can be followed through and delivered for all the people of Ryedale. I think it's really, really important that as we are actually moving to the new authority, that the new authority takes up a plan that is worked up and has the general agreement of this council. I think it's really important that on this particular role we stick with that certain person. Thank you.
Thank you. Who nominated? Councillor Joy Andrews.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Potter has been on the planning committee for some years now. Despite maybe wanting to get off it on occasion, he's always been left on planning, and he has a very good knowledge of planning and the local plan. He's put some very good ideas forward, and I think he looks at Ryedale across the board at the local plan, rather than just focusing maybe on one or two things. So I think he would be a very good chair. He has a good working relationship with the officers dealing with the local plan, which, as Councillor Burr alluded to, is a very important document that needs clarity and meets finishing before the end of this council. So I think he would be the best person for the job. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure who did Councillor Docker. Oh, Councillor Goodrick.
Thank you, Chairman. I've nominated Michael Cleary because he's an excellent planning committee member. He understands the process and the plan really, really well. He's been an excellent chairman of council, an excellent chairman of the licensing committee, and I've absolutely no doubt that it would be in his very safe hands, and I'm pretty confident he'd run with the local plan. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now, as seconders, would you wish to speak, Councillor Thackeray?
Yes, please. I've been a committee member, a planning committee member for 1 year, maybe 2 now. I think maybe only 1 officially. So I've sat in on meetings with Councillor Cleary as chairman of planning, I believe, and Mike Potter as vice chair, and Councillor Andrews, and they're all equally competent men. Where we are, for the benefit of those that don't sit on the Ryedale Plan Review Working Party, we're in the midst of making probably the most critical decisions that this council is going to ever make, ever again, by allocating or recommending and thereafter, hopefully, having approved the housing allocations for Ryedale. It may sound very simple. It's not simple. There are a lot of factors to take into account, and from where I'm sitting as a person that lives in a small village and has grown up in a small village in Ryedale, what we decide to do is going to either result in a vibrant rural community or the death of the rural communities of Ryedale. It sounds a little bit melodramatic, and my goodness me, indeed it is. Now, on the working party, we have Councillor Potter, we have Councillor Andrews, we have myself, we have Councillor Mason. Oh God, yeah, it's like the generation game. Who else can I remember that's on it? Councillor Goodrick.
Don't forget me, Councillor
Sorry,
Thackeray.
yes. Anyway, but the nub of what I'm trying to say is that we have got a good working group with a good, steady, competent leader with Paul Andrews, and I'm nervous that we do anything to rock the boat. I think we need continuity. We're halfway down the road. We've got the great ideas. We're starting to see, we're having to deal with unbelievable amounts of housing submission coming towards this council, which would, in certain instances, in certain villages, for example, Slingsby and others, housing submissions that would decimate those communities, and we need to resist some of these land-grabbing, money-grabbing individuals to the best of our ability. So I recommend Councillor Paul Andrews, with no disrespect to my fellow councillors who are all capable, but I believe we need continuity and to carry on the work that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arnold, you seconded. Would you like to speak as seconder? Okay. Councillor Braxton, would you like to speak as seconder?
I have sat on planning for a year, and I would just like to echo Councillor Andrews' comments really regarding about having someone at the helm who sees the bigger picture for the entirety of Ryedale. Mike is a great chairman. He's very fair. He has a really, really sound knowledge of the area. You know, he's worked on so many projects, Slowing the Flow and other environmental projects, and I think, you know, he's sat in on meetings as vice chair. Again, he has great working relationships with the planning department, which I think is really, really important. And I couldn't think of a better man for the job. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just simply to say that there's been a lot of discussion around the local plan, and having someone chairing planning who is going to take forward that plan and help devise it. I think it's very important to point out that the chair of planning, the planning committee, does not have responsibility for decisions around the local plan. That is within the remit of the policy and resources committee. And I think we need to be very clear about the roles and responsibilities here. That is not in the remit of the Chair of Planning, and we should not be talking about it in the context of whichever individual we decide to take forward at this point. I think that really just needs making very clear.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan.
So can I ask a question on that, please?
We're not really in question time. To make it quick.
Well, just
Quick.
is that statement true? Is the chair of the local planning working group the chair of planning? Okay.
Okay, so we need to go to the vote on this. So we're voting for the Chair of Planning Committee. And we have 3 nominations. Councillor Cleary. Councillor Graham? Oh, sorry, I thought Councillor Arnold was.
I'm sorry then, I've misunderstood.
Sorry, Councillor Graham. I think, is that right, Nikki? Was it Councillor Arnold that seconded him? Oh, right, it was Councillor Graham. Oh, then I beg your pardon, Councillor Graham. Yes, then
Thank
do
you.
speak. Sorry, I thought it was Councillor Arnold.
Yes, I couldn't do better than to simply endorse what Councillor Goodrick has said this evening. And Michael's competence and clear thinking is evident to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. I'm sorry about that. I really thought we'd taken Councillor Arnold's hand when it was up for seconding. So we have Councillor Cleary, Councillor Paul Andrews and Councillor Mike Potter. And I think we'll do it in the same way, go through, and if you just say quite clearly which person you wish to vote for. We'll take the vote now. Thank you.
Councillor Joy Andrews.
Councillor Mike Potter.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor Arnold.
Councillor Cleary.
Councillor Bailey.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Brackstone.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Burr.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor Clark.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Cleary.
Cleary.
Councillor Cussons. Councillor Docra.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Duncan.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Frank.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Goodrick.
Councillor Cleary.
Councillor Graham.
Councillor Cleary.
Councillor Hope.
Councillor Cleary.
Councillor Keel.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor King.
Councillor Cleary.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Mason.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Middleton.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Oxley.
Councillor Cleary.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Potter.
Councillor Rain.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor Ryby.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor Thackeray.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Councillor Windress.
Councillor Cleary.
Thank you. Chair, that's 12 votes for Councillor Potter, 8 votes for Councillor Cleary and 6 votes for Councillor Paul Andrews.
Thank you. So, so then Councillor Potter has been elected as Chair of the Planning Committee. So we move on now to Vice Chair of Planning Committee. Are there any nominations for Vice Chair of Planning Committee? Councillor Docra.
I'd like to propose Councillor Cleary.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Is that Councillor Mackenzie? Did you second that? Yeah, thank you. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chair of Planning Committee? Nope. Nobody else wants that. So that's That's fine. So there are no other nominations. So Councillor Cleary, you have been nominated as Vice Chair of Planning Committee. So now we move on to Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Are there any nominations for Chairman of Overview and Scrutiny Committee? Councillor Keele.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Tracy Middleton, please.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Cleary? Thank you. Are there any other nominations for Chair of Overview and Scrutiny? No. So therefore, Councillor Middleton, you are voted as Chair of Overview and Scrutiny. So we move on to Vice Chair of Overview and Scrutiny. Are there any nominations for Vice Chair of Overview and Scrutiny? Councillor Potter.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Braxton, please.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chair of Overview and Scrutiny? No? So congratulations. Councillor Braxton, you're the Vice Chair of Overview and Scrutiny. So where am I up to now?
In terms of the officer report on page 19 of the agenda, membership of the licensing committee be the same as members appointed to the planning committee. Terms of reference of policy, resources, licensing, overview and scrutiny, planning and the scheme of officer delegation as set out in the constitution remain the same, and that the chief executive, in consultation with the head of corporate governance and monitoring officer, be authorised to make consequential amendments to the constitution arising from changes referred to above. Can we just agree that by general affirmation, please? Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Councillor Oxley.
Sorry, I was trying to get in while you were still on overview and scrutiny. As ever, my timing doesn't seem to be perfect. I'd like to congratulate Councillor Middleton and Councillor Braxton and take this opportunity to say that I hope they get the support from the committee members of Overview and Scrutiny, and by that I mean the attendance of Overview and Scrutiny that committee deserves. We tend to see ONS as the third committee. In my opinion, it's the most important committee on this council, and I just very publicly wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oxley. I'm sure we all agree with that. So, turning now to item 12. Item 12 on the agenda is to receive a council-level decision made under urgency powers. There's a constitutional requirement that these are reported to the next full council meeting following the decision. The constitutional requirement has been met in relation to reporting on this decision. So we don't need to... yeah. So that's just to be noted, that's not to be voted on. So that is the end of this agenda, and I've no other business, so I'll declare the meeting closed, and thank you for all coming, and have a safe journey home. Thank you.